Welcome back to Only Here in KC with Connie Gutierrez, and I'm so excited to Hi Kansas City, welcome back to Only Here in KC, and today's guest is an old friend of mine. Her name is Araceli Villanueva, and she's actually a sports writer. She's also a freelancer. And she is also a social media manager. So she's here to talk to us a little bit about a lot, because there's a lot that she does. We're going to catch up and really learn a little bit about what her work is, her travels, and everything that comes with being a sports writer and editor. So help me in welcoming Araceli Villanueva. How are you?
Hi, doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
I know. So we went to KU together. University of KU. We were just talking, we met through, a math class that wasn't the funnest, right?
It was not.
It was not. So it's been a while that we've been following each other on social media here and there. I've been following everything that you're doing, the interviews and all of that, and honestly kind of like a fan in the background of following all your work. But can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what you do and just a little bit about yourself before we get into all the details?
Sure. Well, first off, it's good to see you again after so many years, and like you've been following me on my adventures. I've been following you as well. So it's great to see, how far we've come in so many years. But yes, what I do is, first off, I'm a little bit all over the place, I have to admit. But I think my main thing right now is I am a contributing writer for Major League Soccer, which is basically a game-by-game basis.
Okay.
I primarily report on Sporting Kansas City here in town and the Los Angeles Football Club, or better known as LAFC, out in Los Angeles. But since I currently reside here, a large portion of my work revolves around sporting.
Okay.
So usually what my work entails is that it could be a simple game recap, it could be a player profile, it literally could be anything, but I won't usually know my headline until about the 75th minute. So you really have to be on your feet, because it's not just you. You're also working with editors from New York City and other writers from around the country. So it's a large group of people. It's not just myself. But on days that they may not need my assistance, I contribute to a website called Switch to Pitch, which is female-run, female-owned. It's basically MLS from the female perspective. We currently have 12 writers from all around the country, including 2 in Canada for our Canadian teams. Okay. We have 5 photographers, and it's just a great organization to be a part of when I am not needed with MLS. You mentioned freelancing. I do a lot of freelance work. A good example of that is I currently worked for the Ontario Fury for the Comets game yesterday, which is all part of MASL, Major Arena Soccer League.
Okay.
So a lot of my work, it typically entails, it could be writing, it could be social media management. Again, usually I won't know till the day of the game what my duties are per se that night, but it's absolutely fantastic. It's been a crazy adventure. I've done so many things I never thought I would. I've met so many players, including like David Beckham, Zlatan, Chicharito. It's just, it is just wild to think about it.
That is amazing, because I've seen your pictures and I'm just like, what? Like, this girl is everywhere, you're meeting everyone, and it's amazing. So can you walk us through a little bit of what is a day like? Because you mentioned, you really won't know until the 75th minute, so you have to be on your toes, watching everything, ready to when they tell you, hey, this is what you need to do, and be prepared. And there's a lot of training experience with that, right? So can you walk us through what is a day like for you, like in work, like you mentioned, last night you covered the Comets. So what does that day look like for you?
Well, a typical day is, normally I would get at least 24-hour notice if they would need my assistance for the game or not. And for last night, an example, since I did not have much prior knowledge of the Ontario Fury, a large part of my day was part of researching, asking questions, and even during the pre-game, while the team was warming up, I went and spoke with the coaches, the head coach, the assistant coach, to try to get a little bit more detail on the team and the players of if there's any specific players I should be on the lookout for. And throughout the game, I was in constant contact with their, their team rep in Ontario to kind of, okay, this is what we need. If you could get us pictures of the players, during halftime, that'd be great. Or if you could write an article about our upcoming games that we have this week. So again, it could vary on the day itself, but typically it's mostly a lot of research.
Okay, so lots of research. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge that not only about the sport, but also about, like you mentioned, getting background and knowing the players, the coaches, and everything that comes with the beauty and like the game, because it is a game. As a Latina, and soccer or football is like hardcore, like that's in my soul, right? It's like one thing on there. So yeah, learning all about it. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you've done interviews as well with sporting, correct?
I have.
Okay. So what is it like also, because you talked a little bit about comments, and what is it like working during the season for sporting, and writing about, the articles and that process?
Usually during the season itself, it's very hectic. It's absolutely hectic. There's a lot of moving pieces to it, especially when it comes to player schedules and trying to schedule those interviews around non-scheduled press conferences, especially if you need a specific comment from someone. Definitely last year was a huge challenge when it came to all of that because of the pandemic, because typically we would have, I don't want to say free range, but we did have access to like the training facility, so we could go and request certain players if we needed to, or whichever. But now because of the pandemic, everything has to be by the book, very tightly scheduled, especially with Zoom now playing a major part in all of it. Because even post game, we had access to the locker room, and again, we could basically pick and choose whichever player we needed. But now everything's so coordinated, it's just, it's like I understand the reason why. Yeah. But at the same time, it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah. So you've had to also, from your profession, have to kind of, in a way, learn a lot to kind of manage through these new challenges. Oh, yeah. So what's kept you going through? Because it seems like there are some challenges, of course, with every profession, and it's also with yours is in working with Sporting KC. So these challenges, how have you overcame them? What really inspires you to keep going through these challenges, and also just to keep going as a writer? Because I myself am not the best writer. English was not my thing. So what motivates you? What keeps you going and inspires you in the writing process?
Oh, I mean, it definitely has its challenges, and there are moments of frustration where it's you do kind of question it a little bit, like, is what I'm doing worth it, or did I choose the right field, or whichever. But I think in my situation, what kind of keeps me going is just the pure fact of knowing that I have made it this far. Let's see how much further I can take it. And I don't like to use terms as like trailblazer. I guess that's just me, being not conscious of it, but I am, when it comes to the media box for sporting, I am the only Hispanic woman in there. And it's not to say there are other women, which there are, but knowing that you're this kind of trailblazer in this male-dominated sport, being a Hispanic woman in this position, it comes with a lot of responsibility too, because I have gotten messages throughout the years where people have messaged me saying that they look up to me, or that I inspire them. Seeing someone in that position is fantastic, and I think that's what also helps keep me going, is knowing that there are others out there trying to follow my example.
Exactly, and you mentioned it in the sports, I mean, there's the whole realm of sports in general, football being also, because you cover a lot of the, Sporting KC is males, but we just recently got, which I even think of, maybe that's something future we can talk about, but recently there's a women's soccer league come into Kansas City.
Yes, the women's league is
Yeah.
back in KC after a 2-year hiatus.
And
almost.
that's the thing too, Brittany Lynn, Patrick Mahomes' fiance, which is that's a whole different story. I'm like a fan of hers. But you know, other women or other groups, I believe, other two people that work with her. That I apologize, can't think of the name right now. But that's big, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely huge. If the women's team, they have a long history. Well, I hesitate to say a long history in KC, but while they were here the first time around, they have actually won the NWSL championship back to back.
Okay, yeah.
Prior to everything that had happened, because at the time they were owned by the same owners who owned the Comets and the women's. So after all that dispute, the women ultimately moved to Utah. They were there for about 2 years, I believe. And just this year, we finally have them back, you know, thanks to Mahomes' fiance, to Brittany, to Chris Long and his wife Angie Long, who have been long fans of the sport. And even just today, you know, they did a media presentation at Union Station where they unveiled the big banners. They had the team there. So it's exciting. It's definitely an exciting time in Kansas City because at one point we were known as the soccer capital of America. So to have them back in town, hopefully we can regain that title. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. I believe the season starts in late April or early May. Don't quote me on it, but I know
pretty soon. It's coming around the corner.
Right. They just returned from Orlando for their preseason, so.
Will you be, I know this is, you know, probably thinking far ahead, but just a question top of my head. Will you be taking part in any, will you be doing writing about those games and the women in the team or focusing more on other projects?
As of right now, I am currently focusing on MLS since the preseason just began today. So I need to kind of keep up with the rosters since we have a lot of new players for both Sporting and LAFC. I have to do my research on them, but I am hoping to add the women to that roster eventually. I am in talks with Challenger Sports, that is a local organization who primarily run the soccer camps here in town. And they had just recently launched a new website where they want to specifically focus on soccer in the Kansas City market. And now with the new women's team, I may work with them on that. I mean, it's still in the early discussions, so.
Well, you're a busy woman. So, I mean, if you know, just the fact that you're expressing that you might be interesting, that's amazing. But I want to go back to the point that you made as well as a Hispanic woman, you know, in a Sporting KC that is mostly men kind of in the sport with a bunch of editors and their opinion. How does it feel for you to, as a woman, of course, as a Hispanic woman, to have, you know, your voice is heard, and for the women at home and the girls at home that, you know, we grow up looking at these people and saying, oh, like, you know, I want to be her. Like, I see her. Like, what can I do to do that? How does it feel to be that person? Because you are a trailblazer, you know. I'm going to go here and just completely compliment you, give you that, because you are. So how does it feel to be that person? And also, like, as a, you know, some girls that they can look up to.
Oh, I definitely appreciate the compliment. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, it is fulfilling in a way, knowing that I have this type of position where not only am I working a lot with the front office, but I have also been part of the supporters group for over 10 years now. So I'm kind of in a unique position where I represent both in a way. But, you know, again, it does feel like a weight on my shoulders a little bit, knowing that I do have this community that kind of has my back and that is supporting me, which is amazing. But at the same time, it's like, you know, but I appreciate it all. I really do. And hopefully, you know, I'm not the last one.
I know, right? Might be the first, definitely not the last. But, you know, it is one of those things to where, as a position like that, it is a lot of weight to be the first one. But it just takes to be that one first to be the leader of the rest of everybody that's coming up, you know?
Oh, yes.
So the girls watching at home or boys watching at home, you know, it's amazing to have you here and to talk about it. You know, if I have so many other questions too to get to, but if you could address, like, to the girls watching at home that they might want to, you know, pursue this or go into social media managing, because social media right now is huge. I mean, with that and freelancing and you're pretty much in a way a freelance, you're your own boss as well. You know, you have a lot of creativity, a lot of freedom to kind of choose and work on things and projects. So for the girls at home, like, what advice would you give them? And today is, we mentioned, this might not air, it's not going to air until a couple of weeks, but it is Women's Day, National Women's Day. So the women and girls at home who have that dream to kind of step in and can pursue writing, or also, you know, in the sports field that they're interested in that, or even social media, what advice would you give them from your experience?
From my experience, I say the advice that I give definitely is to always follow your dreams, as cheesy as that might sound, but definitely go after every opportunity possible. Reach out to everyone. I think that was definitely an integral part to my start, was that there were days where I sent out numerous emails, made numerous phone calls, just trying to get my foot in the door, trying to get that certain opportunity. My start, you know, part of my story is that my very first internship was actually with Sporting Kansas City, just because, you know, I had a long history with the team, and I was fortunate enough that they had created a program called the Victory Project, where they took a bunch of fans and basically made them volunteers, you know, for their different events and for the players. So through that, I was fortunate enough to get an internship. And for like MLS and LAFC, it was just, again, you know, a lot of emails. And if you can get that one person to give you that shot, it can make the whole world of a difference. And just from there, you know, it's continued to grow. So as far as advice goes, again, you know, besides follow your dreams, definitely make those contacts. Definitely keep working hard at it. I know it may seem a little, how do I say this? It may seem a little tedious, especially when it comes to the writing aspect, because there are people who don't like writing as much, but trust me when I say it is worth it in the end. As far as social media goes, definitely use social media to reach out. Twitter is huge, Instagram is huge, TikTok is becoming the next biggest platform. There are so many teams that have created accounts now. There are even soccer personalities who have created accounts. And just that whole social media where you kind of have that one-on-one interaction almost, it's definitely very helpful.
It is amazing that you mentioned that one-on-one, because it is that one-on-one with TikTok. You know, you are, you know, at this point virtually in the virtual world, you're reaching people in their homes and constantly on their phone, wherever they are. So it's that constant, you know, for marketing, there's no limits, right? There's no boundaries. And I just want to say something. I'm going to compliment you again. Talking about, you know, how dedicated you are and how hard you've worked and the experience that you have. And like you said, that constant work, that, like, you know, it's 1,000 emails, 100 emails, whatever it is, it just takes that one that you're just like, that gets you to, you know, the foot in that door and gets you the experience and gets you connected to those people and learning. So a lot of it is perseverance, right? And hard work. And, you know, for the viewers at home that will follow you, because they will follow you and like get to know more about you. And I'm glad that you came here and I can share, you know, you with Kansas City, that I'm excited for them to learn more about you and kind of follow your journey and all this, because I know for a fact you are working very hard, and I know you are going to continue to evolve and continue to write. And who knows who you'll meet next, because tell me a little bit about David Beckham. You like nonchalantly mentioned, like, yeah, like David Beckham and Chicharito, and I'm just like, okay. So how was that? Like, just, you know, casual conversation, just meeting them, picture. What was that like?
Well, generally speaking, MLS is definitely becoming a huge sport in North America. It is attracting players from all over the world. Just last year alone, it's signed, I believe, 5-6 different players from Liga MX alone. So now we have this huge, not only Hispanic push in the community, but we still, you know, seeing a lot of players arrive from England. I believe LAFC just signed their very first South Korean player.
What? That's amazing.
So it's driving, you know, all these fan bases, which is great, you know, and to see this league exceed in such a short amount of time is outstanding in itself. I believe this year we have 2 new expansion teams joining the league. Eventually, we will get up to 30 teams. Right now, we are at, I want to say 27, 28. It's expanding. It's hard to keep up a little bit sometimes.
I can't imagine.
But with all of that, it's bringing these big stars like David Beckham and Zlatan and Chicharito, as I mentioned earlier. David Beckham, he is now the owner of Inter Miami FC, or CF, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And last season, LAFC got to host the season opener, and they were hosting his team.
Okay.
So naturally, David and his wife were there. And it was just kind of that run of chance where we just passed him in the hallway while he was coming up to do TV interviews. And it's like, wait, what's that? What?
Was that who I think it was?
Was that? Because, as a soccer fan, as you mentioned, soccer is a huge part of our lives. Mm-hmm. So you grow up watching these type of players.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like meeting your childhood hero. So thankfully, he is a very nice gentleman for anyone knowing.
Now we know. Spill the tea. Is he really nice?
No, he's super sweet. He's absolutely sweet. So if you ask him for a selfie, he will. He will take those 2 seconds to stop for you. Chicharito, another situation of this kind of a passing by, where I was at the Galaxy training facility, and I saw the team enter, and there's Chicharito right there, and similar to David Beckham. Wait, is that? So I'm very excited to see who else joins the league, not only this year, but in the future. Because I know there's been huge talks of even Memo Ochoa joining Nashville. Or you get new rumors every day, so you never really know. I don't want to give any false hope, but the rumor mill is always running, especially with the summer transfer window.
Okay. Wow. You are so educated. There's so much with information. It's effortless to you. This is your world. So it's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for letting us in and teaching us a little bit more, because I'm over here 27 teams, 28. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, and then also let's talk about a little bit, because in the next couple of years, and I think it's 2024, correct me if I'm wrong, but FIFA is coming to Kansas City.
Yes,
is it 2024, right?
It's 2024 or 2026.
Oh, 2026.
Ooh, I should have double checked before we started filming.
Don't quote us,
I should have
no.
double checked.
But anyways, the important thing is that FIFA is coming to Kansas City, which is amazing, right?
It's potentially coming here. We are still a bid city.
So still okay.
I believe the FIFA committee will actually be flying in to Kansas City sometime next month to do their final evaluations. They are down to 16 cities.
Oh, okay.
And we are one of them.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a final of 8 cities with 3, because it was a joint bid. It was Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And Mexico will host the final at the Studio Azteca. Whereas the United States, I'm not sure where we come into play with it, but I know Los Angeles, New York City, Seattle, Kansas City are all in the running, which I'm sure LA is going to get a few games because it's LA. But to see it come to Kansas City, to have that potential it's just mind-blowing, because who would have thought we would see a World Cup here?
Exactly. Well, you heard it here. I stand corrected, because I read this a couple years ago that Kansas City was going to be one of the cities, and I'm just there, but it's there's a process. It's not confirmed
yet. It's a very long process.
So let's not get too excited. So let's hold off on that. But see, right here, I was like, yes, whenever they come, I'm going to go there. But potentially it's in the works and talking. So hopefully there'll be a confirmation, and that would be amazing for Kansas City.
It would.
To bring in the FIFA. Oh my gosh. And that would be great for you as well, because you're a sports writer and soccer. So I think we can manifest it. I think it could happen.
I think it happen. It could happen.
We could do it.
If anything's taught me in the last 5 years, literally anything can happen. So
I know.
I believe so.
Seriously. Anything can happen if you take the opportunity, right?
Yes.
You have to take the opportunity and be open to the opportunities. Take the opportunities as they are, because from where, since I've known you, you just take opportunity. You do the most random things sometimes. And I'm just what? How? And I was yeah, David Beckham's how did you do that? But it's all opportunity. Mm-hmm. If I was me, I don't know, if I saw David Beckham, I would probably be okay, that was that was him. Cool. The moment passed. You're like, nope, I'm stopping. Let's go take a picture. And I mean, it's moments like that you let pass, but you are somebody that just takes them. You're like, nope, no questions asked. Let's go do this. Let's do that. You don't question it. So I think that's beautiful, and I think that's amazing.
And I think what's part of that too is that I like to look at everything as like a once in a lifetime moment. Like, when are you gonna ever see that again? When oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see David Beckham back in Los Angeles very soon. But for him to be there as season opener, his very first game as a club owner, like, you just take you can't take those moments for granted.
Exactly.
So definitely, embrace every single moment, and you just add them not only to your resume but to yourself as a person, because you can learn from these people as well. And it definitely helps you with your career moving forward and developing not only your skills but yourself as a person. As you mentioned, I'm kind of all over the place. I do have a wide range of interests, soccer being the main one, of course. But outside of the soccer world, I love to do a lot more. I enjoy rock climbing. I like going on hikes. Just enjoying nature, just taking a minute away from the social media, just to kind of recharge.
And it's important. That's a great point that you brought up. It's important to kind of step away from that world of social media, especially since it is your profession, to be constantly on and just know exactly what's going on and be informed. So it's important that you mention that. It's a great message, I think, to our audience as well, because social media is so important right now, to take a break, Coming from a writer who's social media manager over here, it's important to take that time to kind of just step away and focus on yourself and recharge. And I think now more than ever, it's really important to kind of focus on that. So I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because that's really important. Okay, so I have enjoyed our conversation, and I've learned catching up with you and everything that comes with it. And we'll definitely have to we're going to need to talk about more soccer and everything that comes with it, especially with the Women's Soccer League coming here and all the possibilities, maybe the FIFA, who knows. So I appreciate and thank you so much for being here. Is there a social platform that viewers at home can kind of catch up with you and follow you, and kind of, get a chance to read some of your work and kind of follow your future projects and upcomings, run into, whoever you run into next? Can you share with them maybe a platform that you can reach you at?
Sure. Other than, my Instagram and my Twitter, my main platform would have to be my portfolio, my online portfolio, which is www.aracelivillanueva.org. And on there you can see all of my work that I have done, all the interviews I've done. I've even done some podcast episodes. They're all up on the website. The links to all my socials are there. I primarily talk about my soccer reporting would be on my Twitter at ARACELV1. I know it's weird.
It's all good. It's a name. It's social media.
Apparently, I'm not the only Araceli in this city, so
yeah.
But yeah, like I mentioned, my online portfolio, definitely. If you want to view all of my work, all the links are there, as I mentioned, and yes.
Well, thank you again for being here and sharing all these lovely stories, and I look forward to following you. And that sounds so creepy. I love following you, but continue to follow your career, because it's been amazing. And even from the moment we met at KU, when we talk about like what we wanted to do, I mean, look at us now. We're in different positions, different opportunities, and I'm excited for what's coming for us and for you, especially what's coming into the Kansas City world. And thank you again for being that voice of a woman, Hispanic, here in Kansas City in a sport that is mostly run by males. I think that's really important. So thank you again for being here, and I appreciate you. And thank you, Kansas City, for joining in to Only Here in KC with Connie Gutierrez. Thank you for joining in Televida, production by Exum Films, and with the director, Joseph Garcia. And I will hope to see you next weekend.